Hello everyone, my name is Varun and today in this video we are going to discuss about props in React. So let's first see the agenda of this video. So we are going to discuss about what are props in React, how to pass data from parent state to child component via props, how child will re-render once the state is changed in the parent and that state is actually passed to the child as a prop. So this is a bit confusing but don't worry, I will show you this thing in detail. Calling the parent method from the event in the child component. Like I have a parent and then there is a child, but in the child component there is a button and clicking on that button is actually calling the method in my parent component. So this is very important use case. Then the most important part, that is containers versus UI component. So guys, this is very interesting topic. Passing props to the nth level, parent child hierarchy. Like we will be discussing about, there is a parent and then there is a child and then there is another child. So this is going to be nth level and we are going to pass our props from parent to child to the subchild. At the end we will be discussing about destructuring pattern, that what will be the best practice for accessing the props in my component. So what are props? Prop is short for properties and is used to pass data between React components. Technically, it is the object that we pass to a functional component as an argument. Also, it is similar to passing HTML attributes to a tag. Don't worry, I will be sharing more insights about this thing. Next, props are only read-only. It is not like we can change the data passed via props. And one of the most important trait, that it can only be used in the unidirectional flow. As guys, you know that React is unidirectional in nature. It means that data can only be passed from parent to child. It is not like we are passing data from child to parent or it is automatically being changed in the parent. It is not bidirectional in nature. It is actually unidirectional in nature. So now let's move on to the visual design to get more clarity about what is prop and how it actually works or how it is being used. So guys, if you look at this diagram, you can see that I have shared two things. We have a React component and this component contains two things. One is props and another is state. I have already shared what is state and how it is used. And in props, you can see that I have used this React component. Let's say its name is my component. And in my component, you can see that I am adding a attribute called name is equal to Varun. So here this name, the value of name, is actually the property that I am passing to my component. So in simple words, you can see that it is similar to a HTML tag. That is what I was sharing about. It is similar to the HTML tag where I am actually providing an extra attribute to my tag. So name is the prop which we are passing to my component. So in my component, I can use the value of name. So similarly, like in HTML, we have, let's say, image tag, right? And in image tag, we have source. And then this source is desktop image.png. Similarly, you can have anchor tag, a tag with rough, let's say test.html. So guys, you can see that I have created two HTML tags and I have passed two attributes to it, that is source and href. Similarly, I have created my own custom component named my component and here I am passing a property called name with Varun. So my component will be able to access this value via a prop argument. So let's dive into the code to explore it further. So from props, as I mentioned that there are two things, either state and props. And I told you that we are going to create a architecture, a structure where there will be a parent and there will be a child, right? So if we talk about this, right now, this is the parent component. This is the main component for our application. So in order to understand what are props and how they work. Let's create another component, props component .js. Okay, and here function props component, and it is returning me this is props component, and here export default props component. Okay, guys. So by default, whenever we create a function with the capital letter, it is automatically assumed by the React boilerplate that it is going to be a functional component. And here I am using export default props component. This is the name of my component, and it is throwing me the error that unexpected token at line 1. Okay, okay. Actually, I missed these parentheses. So this component is created. Now what we need to do is we need to import this component. Import props component from props component. Okay. As this is the default component, we have used props component. And in order to use this props component, what I am going to do is I am just going to include this component in this app component. So now if you look at the UI, you can see that this is the props component. So it is rendering this component, right? So what are props now? Props are the attributes that we are passing to our component from where we are calling it. So in my app component, I am calling the props component, and in order to pass data to this component, I can have different props like name, or let's say text is equal to this is the dummy text. Okay. So here there is a parameter called props, and if I want to use the data which is passed to this prop, what I will use is props.text. So let's rename content of text is props.text. Okay, so now if you look at the UI, you will see that it is showing me this is the dummy text. So here what we have done is we have created a component, we have created an attribute called text, and in the text I am passing some text, right? So now in order to use that text in my component, what I have done is I have used a parameter called props, and from props I am telling the which is the attribute that I want to show. So it is props.text. So this is the bare minimum example where you can see that how from a parent component I am passing the value to the child component. Right now I am not using anything of the parent component, right? I am just passing the dummy static text to the props component. So what we can do is we can pass the actual value from our parent component to the child component. So for that, let's pass uh, parent title. Let's name it parent title as title. Okay, so now what I'm doing is I'm passing the current state, how React works in the title, which is in the title, to my props component via a property called parents title. And this is the convention that I'm using to pass the real value of that state. So in order to use this title, if I want to make manipulations to this title, or I want to show the content of this title, I will go to props component, and here I can add another tag called p title from parent, and I am going to use props dot, sorry, I need to use curly brace props dot props title. All right. So now if we look at the code, you will see that title from parent is how React works. Cool. So now the thing is, I have clicked on the update title, which updated the state over there. Now the thing is, it is in the parent, and in parent I have changed the title, right? So as we are using this same title in my child also as a property, so it will go to props component also, and it will see that okay, if my child component is dependent on the parent component, there is state that I am using, right? So this also needs to be re-rendered. So if title is changed in the parent component, it is automatically re-rendering my child component as well. So you can see that clicking on update title, it has changed. Now I know how React works. So this is the most important concept that every React developer should know, that if I have a parent component and there are multiple child components inside that parent component, and I am using a state which is defined in the parent component, and that state is changed in the parent, it should re-render all the child components where I have used that state. This is what we are doing for our props at this moment. Similarly, you can pass multiple parameters to props component, like you can also pass name is props comp, let's say, and I want to use props comp in this. So I will use h3 as props comp. Let me verify if okay, it's name, not props comp. It was name. So props comp is passed over there like this. So let's move to the things which we can do next. Right. So guys, as I'm saying that we have a parent and child relationship. Sometimes there is a case that I have defined a button in my child component, and pressing on that button, I want to execute a method in my parent component, right? So we can perform such kind of behavior, like I can pass a event handler. Let's say const my event in child. All right. Now press console.log clicked from event in child. Now in my props component, what I can do is I can pass uh, parent event as this method. Okay. Now what I can do is I can have a button input type as button, value as parent event. Let's add a space as well. Okay, and then close it. So here I need to use on click handler, the same synthetic event that I have already mentioned. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to use props.parent event. So whenever I'm going to press this button, it is going to call a method which is actually defined in my parent. So that method is going to be event in child. So let's move to the code base and see what I mean. So you can see that this is the old content of my parent, right? And now this is the content of my child. So let me also modify it as child component content. Okay, let's not make it h1 but h2. All right. So props are passed like this. All right. Now I have created a button which is, you can see that parent event. Now clicking on the parent event is going to call a method that is event in child. Right now I am only consoling the stuff here, right? So let's look at the console and see. I have clicked it. Now it is saying clicked from event in child. So it has actually called a method which is present in the parent. So guys, this is the most common convention that we use in React, because what we follow is we used to create a container components. So in order to give the clarity, what are container components? Let me give you the idea. So if I am saying that there is, let's say, there is a app component, which is my root, right? And let's create its copy, and this is going to be my child component. So the main business logic or main controller of this application is going to be in this app component, and we are using child component only to show the data. So we can say that this is the mm, yeah, this is called the container component. This is going to be a container component, and this child component is going to be my UI component. Why we are saying that it is going to be the UI component? Because we are actually using this child component only for displaying the things. All the business logic for making the things is handled by my parent component, that is app component. So similarly in this example also, this is my app component and this is my props component. So you can modify it as child component as, yes, let's modify it as props component, which is my child component. Okay, so whenever I am making any changes to my child component, it is that event handler is in my parent. So this is going to be my UI component and this is going to be my container component, which is actually having all the business logic for the application. Also, it is not like that the child component is only going to be my UI component. Might be child component is also maintaining its own state and we are making manipulations on it. But the thing is, it has few properties which are dependent on the parent. So if I am saying that this is my child component, props component, it is not like we are only going to use it to display the data. Might be this child component is having its own state and it is having its own events, but there are few pieces of the things which are dependent on the parent. Similarly, we can have a nesting of different components in React. So let's say I have created another component inside the child component, right? Let's say another child component and rename it to child component 2. So we can also have this kind of thing. So here what we are doing is I am passing, let's say I want to pass the title to my child component, another child component, then I will be passing a prop from here to here, and then I will be passing a prop from here to here. All right, so let me give you the idea. Let's create a file called another child component.js and then function another child component, sorry, yes, return div another child data. Okay, and let's export it, export default another child component. Now I can use this component in my props component. So for that I am going to use another child component from another child component. All right, and now what we can do is we can have another p tag, and inside this p tag let's use this component. Okay, now, oops, let's open. So you can see that there is a parent component and then there is a child component. Inside this child component, there is another component called another child component, right? Right now, we are not passing any data. So in order to pass data, let's say I want to show the title in my another child component also. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass this title from my parent to props component, right? So it is available as props.text or props.parent title. So let's see what was it. It was parent title. So what I can do now is parent title is equal to this. So it is giving me the error because by mistake there are two braces. So now props title is passed to my inner child component. So let's use this again. I'm going to use the same convention props, and here what I can do is I can print props dot parent child. All right, guys. So you can see that I have passed my prop from how React works to my child component, and from my child component I further passed this value to my another child component, which you can see at this moment. So let me again change the UI. Okay. So how React works is passed like this. So right now, one more thing we can do here is that right now you will be seeing that everywhere I'm using props.text, props.title, or props.parent event or props.parent title, right? So what we can use here is that we can have a destructuring effect like this, and we can pass text, parent title, name, sorry, and name. Right, and instead we can remove these props now because I have used the destructuring pattern, which is helping me in making my code more readable. So it is saying that parent event is not defined. Yes, I need to define parent event as well. So you can see that now my application is working again. Everything is working fine. Now we have a beautiful way of defining our props like this. So if we are using any prop which is not available, let's say test prop, right? And I am using this test prop in my component. So it is going to throw the error. Let me see. It will print undefined, I think. It is giving me some another error. Let me see what it is saying that I think this is the error in other part that I will figure out. So it is actually saying that it can't be a decedent, like it is actually saying that you are using div and outside there is a p tag. So if we remove this thing out, yeah, the error is removed now. Similarly, instead of passing the props like this, what we can do is, let me see what is the name, parent title, and I can use it like this. All right, guys. So we haven't done anything fancy. We have just used the destructuring pattern in our method parameter. It is the concept of ES6 that you can figure it out. And I am just making this code more readable, which is available. So guys, if you feel that you have learned something new here, then do like, share and subscribe to my channel for further such content. Your subscriptions will motivate me to create more content in future. If you have any queries or want to share feedback, do comment below on this video. I will try my best to help you out with your queries. Your feedback will help me improve my content further. That's all for now. Thank you.